Welcome to Superhero Pow. I'm your host nerd, Tom Frumgen. Well, where I left you hanging last time, I mentioned that Chuck Rosenzinski, the king of back issues and the owner of the world's largest comic book store, Mile High Comics, was helping me determine the cost of the flip side, the store I was looking to buy. Not because I know him personally or anything, but he recently started posting about a big deal he had just made. Apparently our grandfather, father, and son had been picking up stuff for years in hopes of having a store one day. Unfortunately, there were deaths in the family, and the son gave up on the idea. Then he sold it all to Chuck. Check out these pictures. That's some pretty good stuff there. Over 3,000 items, for which Chuck paid a little over $100,000 for. That's about 35 cents an item. So what did the flip side have? Well, as I mentioned last time, the store hadn't been making rent in over 5 years. They were paying it, just at a deficit. So the business itself was worthless. As for the stock, Dirth, the owner, kept no inventory at all. But by my estimate, he had under 400,000 items there, half of which were records and CDs. Now, I'm not much of a record guy, but even I could see the collection was really cool. I think anyone would love to browse his collection. But buying something? Well, that's another story. Unfortunately, selling old random records is quite hard. Looking up a few of the albums on eBay, at best, some could sell for $40, but most were not selling. Side note, eBay is a wonderful tool to discover what the going rate is for something. The trick is you have to click the Sold Items tab. This will show you what people are actually spending and not just what sellers are listing it at. But unfortunately, it's even worse than that. For just 2.5 miles down the very same road that the flip side is on is the motherlode of old record stores, the CD Trader, whose record collection is easily twice the size of the flip side's. So, as much as I hate to say it, the flip side's record collection is all but worthless. Even Dirth admitted that his record sales would barely make up 20% of his monthly sales. So the chances were quite high that I'd be giving these records to my grandkids. So for all intended purposes, the real value of the store was in the comic books. How much were they all worth? Well, I talked to some of the other store owners in the area. As I said before, I had a lot to choose from. One of them, Carr, the owner of Earth 2, was kind enough to give me a copy of a book that he had helped work on. The Comic Books Legal Defense Fund's Selling Comics, the Guide to Retailing and Best Practices in the Greatest Modern Art Form. How's that for a title? The book features passages written by various comic book store owners all over the USA giving advice on how to run a store. Really a great book. If you're thinking of doing this, then get this book. I also got an account at the Comic Pros Mentoring Forum website, where you can post questions about operating a store, and store owners will attempt to answer them. Mostly Jeremy, the owner of Titan Comics in Texas. Thank you, sir. Lastly, I discovered a YouTube channel, surprisingly enough, called Tales from the Flip Side. One of their shows is Comic Shop Talk, where Emmett of Haven for Heroes in New York talks about running a comic book store. And then there's my good buddy Warren at Galaxy of Comics. They all thought Dirth's collection was nice, but nothing really special. I could find no one who thought Dirth was sitting on a gold mine. And just as I would had to have competed with the CD Trader for selling old records, I would have to compete with Sparrow's Comics on the other side of town. Basically the motherlode of vintage comic book stores. So that didn't really make me feel good either. But back to the Mile High deal, which several of the owners pointed out to me as well. So unfortunately, while Dirth wanted $300,000 for his store, the going rate was more $100,000. Maybe more because of all the Happy Meal toys and movie posters, but you see, Chuck paid $100,000 for his deal because he knew he could sell all those comics. And at this point, I have no idea when I'll be able to sell all this stuff to make a profit. You know, the point of owning a store. To this, one thing all the store owners tried to impress upon me was man hours. Say you buy something at $10. And just for example, say it takes your employee an hour to get it out of the box, priced into the computer, and up on the shelf ready to sell. How much does your employee make an hour? 12 bucks? Well, you now paid $22 for that item. So you're going to have to price it over $22 or you're going to lose money on the sale. There's also a question of how long does it take to sell? Each month you have to pay rent for every square foot of your store. That's how they determine the rent. So let's say that item is taking up $1 of square footage. If it doesn't sell in 12 months, then the price of the item just went up to $34. Now, I'm using generalizations, but this is real in the retail world. Time eats into profit because you have bills to pay. All this did a pretty good job of scaring me, because you'll pretty much never meet a small store owner telling you how easy it all was. Basically, everyone I talked to mentioned how they almost didn't make it. In fact, during this time, one of the other 7 stores in our area shut down. So my wife and I figured we need a backup plan, because if we buy it and it fails, now we're stuck with no storefront and a whole lot of debt. And at this point, we figured we sure couldn't sell the place because Dirth had been trying for 9 years with no luck. So a going out of business sale would be the first step. With a deep discount, get as much cash as fast as possible. Next, move all the remaining stock, which we assumed would be a lot, into our garage and start selling it all online. Now, we plan to do this anyway, but at this point we would have to double and triple down on it. But again, people smarter than us who did this told us it may look easy, but selling regularly to meet needs, like paying bills, can be a challenge. Sure, that book is worth $50, but can you find somebody willing to buy it before your rent is due? Well, either way, at least we had a workable backup plan. Okay, at this point, we were ready to put together an offer. From talking to his agent, we knew that Dirth probably wasn't interested in taking anything less than $300,000. But he had been waiting 9 years, and it didn't look like that offer was coming. I wanted to be fair to him, so I was crunching the numbers back and forth for a few weeks. Just what would it look like if we paid him the $300,000? Of course, my biggest fear was we'd just be trading places with Dirth. Now I have a failed business, plus I'm $300,000 in debt. Maybe we could give a low cash offer, and if the store really comes back to life, we could make payments until he's happy. His agent said he might go for that. But then, of course, maybe it's the hard pitch. The place is only worth $100,000, so just take it and stop losing money every month. But before I made the offers, I wanted to make sure I could follow through and quickly. My wife then discovered a local nonprofit called Initiating Change in Our Neighborhood's Communities Development Corporation, Icon CDC for short, if that's much shorter. Anyway, this was a great free local nonprofit that gives advice and aid to small businesses, often in the form of Small Business Administration loans, or SBA loans for short. Acting like a go-between, they help you get better terms on a loan from a bank, such as lower payments and more time to pay it back. To this, they help you write up your business plan and your financial projections. Now, a business plan is an outline of what your business does/sells, how it gets to stock, how it sells it, and why your business is special. In a nutshell, a financial projections is just numbers out of your butt on how much money you're hoping to make. Yes, you should try to base your numbers on reality, but let's be honest, nobody really knows how much or how little money your new business is going to make. So you lie. Of course my business will be profitable in a reasonable amount of time, 2 years. But then you don't want to lie so much that nobody's going to believe you. Now let's talk about the loan itself. This is where I get to rant. You see, you need a down payment on a business loan. What the f***? They say they want to make sure you have skin in the game. So I'll be going into debt for like 7 years. I'll be working my ass off to make this business profitable, and somehow you don't think I have enough skin in the game? Now, I understand not wanting to hand out $1 million to everyone who wants to open up a hot dog stand, but by demanding a 30% down payment, they are actually making it easier to fail. Having that 30% as backup money could help prevent a bankruptcy. Plus, it's pretty much money you're paying yourself. So I don't get it. It's like the old Bob Hope joke. A bank is a place that'll lend you money if you can prove you don't need it. Anyway, I was working on every angle because I wanted the negotiations to go smoothly and quickly. If he didn't like one of my deals, I had another deal in my back pocket. And so breaking down the loan came out to something like this. If I wanted to pay the $350,000 asking price, the down payment was going to be just over $100,000. Ouch! That comes out of my bank account. Monthly payments for the standard 7 years would be like $4,000 a month. If I was going to pay something more fair market price, the down payment would be around $30,000, with the monthly payments for the 7 years around $1,100. But now we've come to the surprise ending. Here I am putting all this together when I get a call from Warren at Galaxy Comics. He just heard someone bought the flip side. Was it me? No. I called the agent. No, she says the place is still up for sale. That's weird. Anyway, the next day I swing by the store just to touch base with Dirth. He barely has a phone or anything. And the place is all locked up. Turns out, unknown to all of us, Dirth did sell the flip side. Well, to make a long story short, I did manage to meet the guy who bought it all, and here's what happened. Are you ready? Somehow this guy heard the store was for sale, so he stopped by, walked around for a couple hours, spoke a little bit to Dirth, and then wrote him a check for $300,000. Done. In the next few weeks, he moves all the stock out of the store, to prevent paying rent, I assume, and is basically selling it all online somewhere. Crazy, huh? The store had been up for sale for 9 years, and it sells in like 3 hours. Or I'm sweating it out trying to figure out how to make the store a success. This guy just wanted the stock. Gotta say, it bums me out to know that this fun little store is just now gone. And I was so consumed with the process, it just feels weird and anticlimactic. I figured Dirth would have agreed to one of my plans, or I'd just walk away, like the last guy. But hey, Dirth got what he wanted, so good for him and his wife. He stuck it out for 9 years, bless his heart. And I do wish the new owner luck with all of it. Looking back at it all now, minus the feeling of dread at the time that this deal could screw over my life, I wonder if I might have missed something. Was it really that risky? Blowing a $100,000 hole in my bank account and ranking up $250,000 worth of debt? Of course, all my smarter friends say I dodged a bullet. And if I had to do it all over again, I'm not so sure I'd change anything. But there you go. That's how I almost bought a comic book store. But considering how it all turned out, I guess I was never really in a position to buy the place anyway. Anyway, thanks for listening to me ramble on. I hope you enjoyed my little tale. And very curious to hear what you think. Do you think I dodged a bullet? Or did I just screw up? And what'd you think of Dirth's store? Quite a place, huh? So, remember to like, subscribe, and notify, because if you do, I might just tell you about the time I almost bought an art store. Always a bridesmaid, never a bride. Wait, what?